Welcome to Hey Dad Podcast. Real dads, tough issues, and a genuine love for a fatherless generation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hey Dad Podcast. I'm here with Chris Lawler to my left, and to my right, my brother Frank Lomelli. Great. Thank you for joining us. Well, today's subject is something, believe me, all of us have faced or will face. Awkward moments with family during the holidays. Because we just got through Thanksgiving, so it's kind of all fresh in our minds.
Yeah.
And there's always something, man. People are messy. You bring messy people together, you get messy stuff. So that's how it is. But you got to learn how to navigate.
Yeah.
So hopefully, with the thoughts, we share some of our stories. We say how when we did it right, when we did it wrong. Hopefully, that can, hey, take whatever nuggets you get out of this. So hopefully, so let's start with Chris.
Okay. Well, we went up to Fresno where my little sister, I have 3 siblings besides me. I'm the third child down. My 2 older ones stayed in San Diego. So we're just going to the family from my younger sister. And she has been elevated to the queen of Fresno at this point because all of her kids have all had kids, and then their kids are starting to have kids. So the population is exploding exponentially. Wow. And they cut every sort. Most of them, frankly, aren't Christians at all, but they're very sweet and very loving and very tight family. So we took our road show. And, I was telling you before, I bring a lot of complications wherever we go because of my son, James. Yeah. And James loves the idea of traveling, but he hates traveling. So, he always wants to go somewhere and be someplace. But the moment you leave, he's looking for the moment he can get back home. Oh. It's, we call it rental pony syndrome,
How's that?
Yeah, when you rent a pony, they're so slow, like it's a death march when they're leaving. But once that pony gets turned around at the end of the trail, then they're galloping to get back. Okay. That was James for the whole weekend. We were up there for we scheduled to be up there for 5 days. We only made it to 4.
Did you explain your son's special needs?
Well, yeah, he's been on a show once in a while.
Yeah.
He's autistic. But he's more than autistic. He's multi-handicapped. He's 38 years old, big as me. Mm-hmm. Very sweet-natured most of the time, but he can also bring the fires of hell if he chooses to. Right? He can swing with the hammer of Thor. And I've been on the end of that. So I'm his handler, or lion tamer, if you will. And most of the time, I'm able to manage him in certain situations. But in what my family looks like when they're all together, there's pretty close to 45 or so individual members, and at least 40% of that are little kids about 6, 7 years old and younger. So you can imagine it was a madhouse of little kid riot just going all over the place, like somebody backed up a dump truck and dumped wild raccoons into the building.
But that's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
You kind of want that, and you expect that once a year, that's the way it's going to be. So set your tolerance way up on high.
Exactly.
And keep an eye out on the ground for random Legos you might step on, and you can usually get through it.
Right.
But that doesn't play very well with James because he's autistic, and high levels of chaos and noise, that just so overstimulates him, he goes berserk. He'll go Frankenstein.
Right.
So a lot of times when I bring him up there, I've got to keep him in the truck, listening to cowboy music. And his participation is just hanging his head out the window while the kids are playing. Then if he does come out, then he wants to boss everybody because he's like me. He always wants to be a dad to every little kid. And the little kids up there, they don't see James often enough to understand, and they don't know what to do with it. Mostly they don't like it. So, it's part of what the mix of what we have to deal with. But the other, not everybody has that situation. So that's not terribly relatable to anybody listening to the show now. But what we all have are extended family members that don't think like us, don't believe like us, don't act like us. And yet, a couple of times a year, you're jammed together. You're forced to get together no matter what because of the holidays. And then you have to figure out how am I going to get through this weekend without an argument or some kind of confrontation blowing up in your face. So we have that, in my family.
What's the biggest point of contention?
Well, a lot of them, politics is always a hot issue.
That's a killer, man.
We have developed some pretty good skills at avoiding the political discussions. You just got to realize if you step there, you're basically pulling the cog out of the avalanche. It's all going to come down.
Yeah.
It's going to come down from all sides. And not everybody will be able to deal with that. Not everybody has a skill set to deal with that. I might think of myself as I'm pretty conservative, but I have a lot of diplomatic skill. I know how to be in a liberal room, a super liberal room, and not, set anybody on fire. But not all my relatives got that skill. And so sometimes I might make a comment that I could pass off a bad reaction, but somebody else will jump on it. And then these two are snarling like dogs in the junkyard, And
I'm the intimidator. For some reason, with my wife's family, I avoid that. Yeah. I avoid the political and the religious conversations because nobody wins, and usually most people walk off pissed off.
Yeah.
And so I tend to piss people off because when they talk about politics, I just basically relate to them how my life has been according to paying taxes, having a business, being a father. And I don't claim to be the best at anything. I actually just say, well, this is what I believe. Now, probably here, speaking of this right now, people are probably going to get mad. But I've never voted once in my life. And the reason why is because I strongly believe in certain things are thrown at us, but they already know what they're going to keep away from us. And so in the years that I've been alive in this country, to this day, nothing's really changed. I think things have gotten worse. So to me, it makes no sense. And I know that there's a lot of people that tell me, no, well, that's the reason why, because you don't vote and there's people like you. I beg to differ because it's just the way I feel. So and that goes on and on. So because of those feelings, I used to like to share my beliefs, but it made people really angry.
But it's okay if you don't vote, because when I vote 2 or 3 times in every election, as many times as I can get a hold of my voting card. So we make up for one another.
And so for those reasons, same with religion. I follow what's going on in the world, but I don't tend to get too deep into it. So yeah, it becomes an awkward thing. So a long time ago, I started just kind of, when that conversation starts, I start being funny. Huh. But I try not to go too far with that either, because then they think I'm making fun. So then what I started doing was I'd come in and just kind of be quiet and not do anything. So I started intimidating people, and people tell me, you're intimidating, just your presence alone. And I'm like,
the nicest guy.
Yeah. So I am one that makes someone feel awkward, but it's because I'm thinking maybe if I just kept my mouth shut, it'd be better. But that mess still goes on amongst the family.
Yeah.
I just choose not to get in it. But because if you're in it, you're something. If you're not in it, you're something. So the last thing that I was told is, I'm very intimidating. And I'm like, how?
But I think it is a good idea to disengage from political conversations, mostly because, man, okay, I'm a conservative person and I vote, but I do also believe that we have 2 parties in this country and they're trying to turn us against each other so they can capture our vote. So if I'm a Democrat and I see a Republican as a rich white guy who hates black people, they've captured my vote. I'm polarized to their side. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. And if I'm a Republican who thinks all Democrats are socialists and they just want to make the country communist and that's all they care about, so they capture our votes by polarizing us, but they're ruining family and relationships in that.
Yeah.
And they don't really care as long as they have their vote captured.
You know, I saw something really good on social media recently. A little blurb saying that black ants and red ants normally get along. They cohabitate the same land. But you put them in a jar together and somebody shakes the jar, the shaking will make them turn on one another and they'll kill each other.
Oh, wow, see?
And so you always have to wonder who is shaking the jar.
Especially if shaking the jar money comes out of the bottom. You know what I mean? Like, but so like, why get all up? Why get into it? I'm not going to say I'm perfect though, because sometimes I'll get sucked into a topic. Because there is one thing, like if you're ultra liberal, there's things you stand for that I may not understand or like think fundamentally you're wrong. Why would you agree with that? And vice versa. You know what I mean? So, so I've been sucked into it. But whenever I do talk it, I'm very gracious about it. You know, I'll say it nicely. I'll say it, and I say it gently because in my mind, I want to put a seed in there that their conscience can help.
But what do you do with that nephew that does not say it gently?
Yeah,
they're just jamming their opinions.
I would attack him for being aggressive.
Well, see, young people know. I've had the experience. They're very, what's the word? I want to think of the word, but
stupid.
That's our audience, brother.
You'd be the awkward guy in the group.
Yeah, no, I see it.
They're very, I guess, analytical. They're very
cerebral and passionate about
politics, and they just want to just dig deep. But then it starts with a nice conversation, and it goes into like an anger trip. And so, you know, it makes me think. I don't know if this is what happens as you get older, but back in time when I was a kid and my family would get together, our families would get together. I remember there was kids and all that. And I was a kid, so I'm having fun. And I remember seeing all my uncles and aunts, and I don't know what they were talking about because I never really paid attention because I was a kid running around with my cousins and stuff like that. But I remember everybody laughing and having a good time. But I don't know what they were talking about. Or maybe it looked like they were having a good time, but they were arguing. I don't know. But I think to myself, it seems like now at my age, I'm 56, there's not much to talk about other than what's going on in the world because nobody's really talking about like, hey, so how you've been? That's like a really short piece of conversation when you first come in.
Yeah.
And then right after that, you choose your topics, which is politics, religion, or somebody's kid is going buck wild. Yeah. It's nothing about what you would think it would be. So the awkwardness, I've sat there and I thought, don't these people have something else to talk about? Like, we haven't seen you in a long time. Why do I want to argue about politics? Yeah. So I feel awkward. Like, should I come in with, hey, by the way, so, you know, it's like, you know.
And that's their default. They come in loaded with this, ready to go. And then boom, here it comes. Like, no. But, you know, it's because at this stage of my life, I'm one of the elders in the house, right? I'm one of the older uncles, the dad, the grandpa. And so you kind of comes with a little bit of authority. And so I'll say, like, hey, relax, you know, like, hey, you know, like if they're
you throw the shoe,
yeah, if they're totally right wing, I'll say, hey, Trump, relax, or I'll tell him, hey, Shay, relax, you know, you could conquer the world with your rhetoric tomorrow, but let's have turkey, and I could joke like that, and it's done lighthearted, and it dispels it though, it kind of breaks it up.
It puts a picture in my head. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So
well, you want to be the rod in the reactor, you know, to slow the reactions down.
Yeah.
Just, you know, turn it so it's part of the issue with my extended family is their cultural differences. I'm not talking about ethnic. I'm talking about up there, they pepper their language with cuss words. Just pepper it. It's just like to the point where I don't even think they're conscious of doing it.
They probably don't.
It's just like one of these things. It's just there, and they see one another because they live there far more often than they see us. So they pick up on each other's kind of cultural tics and whatever, and that's just kind of the way they are. Now, I can show up and they probably look at me like I'm the Pope or something, you know, because I'm the big Christian or whatever. And so they might like, well, excuse my language, you know, have a little bit of conscience about it. Yeah. But I kind of hate being painted with that kind of a brush.
Exactly.
Because then they can't be normal around me.
Yeah.
You know, and my style is to be kind of subversive in my humor anyway. You know, you get that on the show if you watch this once in a while. So I kind of rub everybody the wrong way on purpose just to get a reaction out of them, you know? But, you know, you got to deal with those cultural things.
You know, and for those reasons, we used to do the hopping around family thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we did that. And at first it was really exciting to go spend time with family and stuff like that. You know, our kids now, you know, 20, 21, and then we have a 9-year-old. And I feel bad for her because we've kind of cut that out now for those reasons. It's like, okay, so do we want to go have this baloney conversations and then go eat and then sit there all full and watch a movie?
Yeah.
or do we just want to relax at home? And we already know each other, so we kind of interact better. And so we've chosen, and sometimes I feel a little bad about it because I think, well, family is important, but we don't ever regret it because like the next day after Thanksgiving, it's a beautiful day. And my wife and I get up and we always tell each other, you know, it's good that we stood home, you know, because we're not so pressured into like having to be somewhere, having to come up with conversation and go through the steps of whatever you have to take. And I don't know if you can call that selfishness or not, but the thing is we rather just really enjoy. You know, because when it's us, the kids and us, we're not talking about politics. We're not talking about any of that. The kids are, you know, my son doesn't do what he used to do with gaming a lot. He does it once in a while. So he does that and interacts with the sisters. And then we'll watch a movie together and then we'll eat and then we'll laugh and then we'll take a nap and then we'll get up and we're in our pajamas. We're just hanging out. So it's kind of really nice. But there's no awkward moments.
I want to come to your house.
I know, kidding. Really? It doesn't work if your wife's the most social person on the face of the earth.
Well,
my God.
I used to be.
You're the social guy.
I used to be that way. I still am. I mean, I'm good in crowds, whatever. I love being around people. My wife is more conservative. She'd rather just us. I used to not like that because I used to feel like I had to be around people because I just want to have a great time, right? But through the years, I found out that even brought down the stress levels because it takes a lot of energy and preparing to be around people, a group, and talking and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, it just goes like that. And you really didn't even get to see or experience everything, which now, being home, it's kind of slowed me down. And I enjoy it. I actually enjoy it. I become a homebody.
Mm-hmm. My house is an open door. My brother one year, this is only about 2-3 years ago too, he calls me up, hey bro, now this is my bohemian brother, right? I got one brother who's a pastor and then I got another brother who's just a almost full-time musician. And my musician brother, he's always invited to Thanksgiving, and he calls me up the morning of Thanksgiving. He says, hey Rick, do you mind if I bring a friend? I'm like, yeah, fine, because we have the same friends. We grew up together, right? So I thought it was going to be one of the guys or somebody, or maybe one of his girlfriends or something. He shows up with this girl I've never seen before. And the story behind it is he met her the night before at a bar. and the next day, he's bringing her to my house for Thanksgiving. And it turned out she was from out of state. She was visiting California. I don't know the whole
Before
story.
you know it, you're caught in a Hallmark movie.
I thought, or she could be a killer or something. It won't go in one of the rooms, won't come out. I don't know. And I'm just like, Mark, what kind of guy are you? We had another event. It was Easter, and this time he brings his roommate, and I like his roommate. I say, come on down, dude. Yeah. Man, you talk about the cussing? His roommate was dropping F-bombs, this is Easter with kids dressed up and running around. And here's like me, I'm a little numb to it, but my wife's all, Ricky, he's cussing like it's a big deal. I have to go about, hey, Daniel, what I call him, Daniel Sailor Mouth. I'm like, hey, Daniel Sailor Mouth, tone it down. And he goes like this. He's all, what are you talking about? I go, dude, you're dropping F-bombs like no one's business. He's all, am I?
It's true.
He had no idea.
You don't realize it.
No, but that's a little awkward. When we have that wide open door, you got to deal sometimes with.
Well, right now that you said about the wide open door reminded me early on our marriage when we first got married. Everybody has certain things they do, you know, and when you come into the family at first, it's like the honeymoon days, you know, and you're all like, that's okay, you know, stuff like that, right? But one of the things after a while I told my wife, and I didn't want to tell her because I thought she's probably going to get upset or hurt. But the good thing is that she was right there with me. So her family just shows up.
Yeah.
They think it's okay to just show up.
Yeah.
Unannounced, right? And I mean, to the point where I think there was a Christmas, I don't remember a birthday or Christmas. I think it was Christmas. And her brother shows up with the kids and calls and says, hey, we wanted to drop some Christmas presents off. I think that was Christmas. And she goes, oh, really? And right before she goes, well, we were going to lie.
Wow.
Because we were just lounging.
Way out.
He goes, yeah, we're right outside.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? We were watching a movie, right? And it's like, we're in our pajamas and stuff. And it's like, what? And they didn't mean right outside in the car. They were right outside in the front door. Yeah, we're right here.
That's Randy Quaid showing up in National
Oh my
Lampoon's
God.
Christmas Vacation.
That was like one of those things where she was like, oh my God, and I was like angry. But I didn't say nothing. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
So that happened. So I don't know, whatever. So then it started happening more. Dad showed up with lemons. And I mean, in their heart, it wasn't anything bad. It was just, we want to, like her dad grows stuff and he would want to come and drop off a bucket of lemons or a bag of something that he grows. He's really good at it. But I always thought in my house growing up was you call and say, hey, we're thinking about getting together. Maybe if you guys, we'll just talk about it, come up with the day. I grew up that way.
Yeah.
But my dad couldn't stand that his own family would show up. He would tell his own family, what are you doing here? How come you didn't call?
Jeez.
That's the way my dad was, right?
Hard, bro.
Yeah.
So I grew up, but I couldn't do that. So it happened for a while until finally I told my wife, I said, hey, I go, they just show up. I go, I mean, that's not right. So long story short, she goes, I feel the same way, but I don't know what to do. I said, well, I'm going to have to tell them. And she goes, well, you need to tell them because they won't listen. And at first their feelings were hurt, but I was nice about it.
Yeah.
And then finally but that was very awkward.
Well, it really brings to the front the necessary, here we are dads, right? We're always talking to guys that maybe don't have a dad or they're estranged from their father or whatever. And so they don't have this kind of guidance being passed along.
Yeah.
And so as dads, what we're saying here, what you just articulated very well, is the need for a family protocol.
Yeah.
If you're, this your family, you want to let people know that here's where the boundaries of my family are. Here's what's private. But I also have a big layer of diplomacy available for wild card situations.
Yeah.
So you can do this, but here's some things you just can't do because if you push in, I'm going to push back.
Yeah.
And if they learn that, then they learn how to navigate your culture. And my thought is that when I'm in the middle of that big, massive, chaotic thing up in Fresno, I really am representing the kingdom of God. I mean, not to put a freaky religious flavor on any of this, but I know they look at me that way.
Yeah.
They're looking at me, oh man, the Pope is coming. We better clean up our language, better not do anything wrong and make our kids, toe the line. So they already kind of have that image of me. So what I want to do is I want to come there and show that I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a bunch of religious protocols that have to be observed, but I do have a grip on what's good and what's not good.
Yeah.
And there's certain ways of being with one another that you're going to see on display from me that maybe you wouldn't see on display anywhere else. So it's an opportunity for us to showcase a different way of living to the family than what maybe they're doing.
To break it down to some practical bullet points, like you're saying, I would think one is be ready to extend grace, put up with the stuff. I would say the other one is if an awkward situation breaks out, like I'll tell you one year, my mother-in-law got in an argument with her daughter, and it was at her daughter's house. And it was a stupid argument, and it was only about 10 words deep. She stood up, grabbed her turkey, and walked out the door.
Wow.
And there's like 25 of us there, man. And like, what are we going to do now?
Grab the turkey. That's the nuclear option. Yeah.
KFC.
Grabbed the turkey, walked out, and everyone was like in shock. I'm leading to some advice on this. Don't take ownership of bad people's reactions. You know what I mean? Don't feel responsible for what that person just did, and just roll over it. Okay, where's the ham? Slice the ham thin. You can just make a joke out of it and just move on.
Yeah.
Don't let those people take over or diminish your get together. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would say come in with grace. Don't let don't feel the emotion of other people, the trouble they make, and roll over those issues. You know,
and don't educate other people's kids.
Because
or call them on if they're doing, because like my sister has two boys, and my brother-in-law, he's a great guy. I have nothing bad to say about him, but he's one of those parents that lets them and come here, buddy, and he starts talking to them, and they're not even listening.
Let me cut to the quick. There are parents that don't spank their kids.
No, they don't, and my
that
sister,
means they don't. Everything is negotiation.
It's buck.
Everything's
my sister
a marketplace.
knows, obviously, she was brought up in our home, so at first when I would come over, I'd be like, it's their furniture, it's their stuff, right? It's their refrigerator. I'd be like, hey, buddy, don't do that. That's not good. And I could tell my brother-in-law was like, and then my sister would be like, listen to Uncle Frank. And they were like looking at me and then looking at their dad and kind of like doing this slow thing, like going to my dad, and I was like, oh, that little guy, I just like, he needs a good, and I would tell my sister, doesn't he whip him? But I found out that, well, it's not for me to call that. That's their house. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
Yeah.
But it was just natural for me to do that. Until finally, my sister told me one time, she goes, he doesn't like that you talk to them in that tone and that you tell them. Like, you know what? I'm not going to get offended. I said, I'm sorry. It's just like people cussing and they don't know it.
Yeah.
It was just automatic. And then I started, and then my wife on the way home was like, you shouldn't have done that. You can't be doing that. And I'm like, well, the kid's not listening. That's not right. Yeah, but it's not your child. So anyways, that was the awkward moment where you can hear crickets right after that. And then slowly come back and focus on what we were talking about. But yeah, it was just kind of awkward.
That's hard. Yeah. It's hard, especially with the kids. Because like, imagine here's this scenario. You got two cousins. One cousin hits the other cousin, makes them cry. Now, then the parents are like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, right. I need a spanking for that one. If you want me to bite my tongue, I could bite it if I watch you spank your child in punishment, And then you hear this very soft, and you go, play now. It's like, hey, where's my justice for my kid,
Well, this is a real wall between generations.
Yeah.
Because we're of a generation there where corporal punishment was just a normal part of growing up.
It's a quick solution, honestly.
It was, and the generation that is coming this on the other side of that wall, they cannot comprehend what in the world, how could we torture our children and beat them senselessly. And they have made a committed vow that will never happen in their lives. But here's the thing, what they don't see, what we do see, is that a kid will negotiate anything but a spanking.
Yep.
That's the one thing they won't negotiate for. And so if you're in our generation, I don't know how it was with you, but my dad probably went over the top. But I'm glad he went over the top instead of going the other way and doing nothing, because it would have given me no backbone at all.
Well, I was going to say to that is I still don't regret being whooped, because I didn't get whooped all the time, but I got whooped real good some of the time. And I'm telling you, those things helped a lot.
Yeah,
I still
because
agree
you had that one moment where you get a spanking. If you do it right as a parent, you install that. Yeah. You only have to install it once. Then all you have to do is refer to it from that point on.
If back then you were told, just wait till your father gets home.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, man. Now, that wait till your father comes for what? So what?
There used to be a nursery rhyme that I remember my wife knew this. 3 little ducks went out to play. Over the hill and far away, the mother duck said quack, 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 but none of the ducks came running back. So this goes on a bunch of times. So the 3 little ducks were still out to play over the hill and far away, but the daddy duck said quack, quack, quack. 3 little ducks came running back. That's because the dad was the muscle.
Yeah.
The mom didn't want to be the muscle, and, they had that kind of arrangement. Anyway, here's this wall now. So when you get together with a lot of extended family, you have a number of people that are just lost in this endless negotiation with their kids, and it really shows.
Yeah.
That the kids really don't have any boundaries at all.
Right.
No.
But in that circumstance, I think, like, especially if your child hits it, I'm gonna even if you're okay, I'm not into spanking, I'm gonna put them on timeout, but make them go and apologize. Like, make it formal.
Yeah.
Because the other parents need justice. They need to know that you took this serious and you're making him understand it's serious. So I would say, take the time, make your child go apologize, make sure his punishment, you can call it shaming, and there's nothing wrong with shame.
I had awkward moments from my previous marriage. 3 boys, and I raised them very rugged. They football players and just rugged. I wrestled with them, and they were out there, and so I always told them, anybody tries to punk you or anything like that, 1 in the nose, whack, and if you run after that, it's okay. And but they wouldn't run.
Yeah.
And they're big kids. They're just like little gorillas amongst all these little chimps, and so I had plenty of times where here comes the little cousin and crying, and he hit me, and they wouldn't say nothing. I said, "Did you hit him?" Yeah, and then I said, "Why'd you hit him?" "Because you told me." I said, "Oh my God!" After that, was like, "No, I didn't mean that. Not your cousins." But I would say you need to apologize. But after that, there was that kind of like that thing from the other dad, like that wasn't cool. Yeah. So it was awkward.
Yeah, you overstep your bounds.
But I'll tell you this, kids, I didn't mean go beat people up, but I can tell you right now that I never regretted teaching my kids, because they did try to get bullied in school.
Yeah.
And I remember 2 of them were really close together where they went to school in the same school. And I remember an incident where the little one they weren't little, but the littler one got bullied. Both of they were going to beat him up after school. They related to each other. The little one said, "Hey, they're going to gang up on me. I'm a little afraid." The middle one, which was, he looked more like a gorilla than the other ones, waited right there with his brother, and they just beat the crap out of 4 kids. And they got pulled into the school. But I told the principals, and I would tell them all the time, I said, I don't care. That my kids are not going to get bullied. Yeah. But it did cause awkward moments. There's a good and a bad thing. Because they're kids, they didn't know, like, is that everybody, or is that, the exceptions for family? Yeah. So there was awkward moments, usually in gatherings, where my kids were a little bit too rugged.
Yeah.
I have a story I'm embarrassed to tell, but I'll tell it. When I don't know how old I was, 10, 8, 9, 10. Shoot. I got to finish it. I started.
Yeah, go ahead.
When my dad started dating this woman, and I guess because she had kids, he thought, well, I got kids. And he went and got us from my grandma's and took us to go meet them on the weekend. And she had these boys about our age, and they were like a little wild. And we were wild too, though. We were really wild. And so he was peeing in his backyard, and he turned around and he tried to pee at me and my brother Mark.
Oh, jeez.
We're like, "Hey, dude, come on, man." Right, we ran away. Well, we made a plan that we were going to start talking to him, standing up. And while we're talking to him, we were going to take ourselves out and pee on his leg.
Oh, man.
Okay.
You're going to rainbird him.
Is that what it's called? It seemed like a wild shot. So we're talking to him like eye to eye, 2 of us here talking to him like real
golden
close.
Shower.
And while we're doing that, we started peeing on his legs, and he did not notice. And he's all, "Oh yeah, blah, 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 blah." And he goes, "Oh man." 2 big wet spots on his leg, all running down his knees. But the funny thing is, I look back now, what did his mom think of us? What kind of animals you peed on my little baby?
I'll do what kind of animals, related animals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we teamed up on them. Well, but anyway, sorry guys, I'm kind of running down.
Probably the most awkward people in your group if you invited us.
Okay, so.
But I know we're running. See what this is. I run the clock here, and we're supposed to try to get this within 30 minutes. We're running over just a little bit. But this, again, this wall about how to deal with bullying. There's a lot of things. Our generation, the way that we dealt with our families, is very different than the people on the other side of the wall. And that's not to say anything bad about them, because they are the ones that harvest the results of the way they deal with things. In my side of the wall, I learned early on that you get bullied, you don't have to win the fight. You just have to be willing to blow up every time somebody does that.
Yep.
Because eventually bullies say, this is not worth the trouble.
Yeah.
I'll find somebody else who won't do anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the way out. But we kind of got this common sense stuff. And I don't know why this wall got put up. This political correct, kind of like woke ideology, but it's prevented a lot of the younger generation from seeing what is obvious to us.
I think I know. And it's because a lot of these single parents, like moms, when the father's not there, I saw this myself. The child is brought up, a mother would love, nurture, protect their child. Mm-hmm. But she's not equipped with showing him how to protect himself in certain situations. So when the father's not there teaching the kid, you put up your dukes and, you don't allow anybody to touch you and you punch him in the nose. There's no father to do that. So what happens is the child becomes sensitive, just like a female is, because that's what he sees all the time. So the woman's not going to go out there and say, yeah, you beat him. I mean, there is some women, but most women will not go out there and send their kid on a war. Yeah. She's going, no, you talk it out, you care for them and you speak to them. And I saw that a lot. And I think that's why those generations are like that, because they're grown sensitive and kind of afraid of, how do you say, like shield from the backbone of put your dukes up, punch him one in the nose, don't let anybody touch you. There's nobody to tell
I grew up with a single mom and I got all that kind of nurturing. You grew up in a wilder environment. That's why you have guns. I have a whistle. So it's like, but now I'm willing to give somebody what they deserve if I ever got bullied. I'm 67, a long way away from that.
Yeah.
But
the whistle's still good though.
Yeah, the whistle's still there.
I think the gun needs to be put away, but the whistle's still good.
Well, good. Well, okay, guys, let's cap that off right here. So just thoughts. Hey, be patient. Draw boundaries when you have to draw boundaries. Don't take ownership of other people's bad behavior. Don't let it ruin your time.
Yeah.
Don't.
Your culture is fine.
Leave the turkey.
Culture.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't walk out with the turkey.
Think about the rest at least and leave the turkey.
Turkey is off limits. Any side dish is good to go with it.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Let's pray. We never leave without praying. And we're talking about a lot of family stuff. And I know our purpose with our families is to always show glory and reputation to God. Because, our families know that we're standing here as a Christian. We are representing Christian thinking, godly thinking. So God, help us to be the best example and to be an accurate example, not bludgeoning people with our beliefs, not overstepping our bounds, certainly not trying to clean the dirty fish before they're even caught. But God, just to be wise in the way that we are and be gentle and be the rod and the reactor, peacemakers. So that's why I've asked for all my brothers out there that are listening to this. In the name of Jesus, go forth and be the hero among your family. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. See you next time.